I am not sure there is anything that in trace amounts is a problem is unhealthy, at least not benign, but really potentially healthy. In food or in whatever, obviously there are, when you say trace amounts, you have to say some very small amount, right? That's true. But I wanted to talk today on this idea of carbon dioxide on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I am your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Friday, the 4th of March of 2022. That means at the end of the day, today will be, at sundown will be the beginning of the Sabbath for those who observe it. Thank you for everyone who's here on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube, on BitChute, on CloudHub, on my Facebook page. That would be the Kurt's Religion and Politics page there, on kurtzreligionandpolitics.locals.com, on Minds, minds.com, and again, that typically would be the Kurt's Religion and Politics group. Sometimes you'll see me elsewhere as well, on Parler and on Gab. And again, the subject for today is carbon dioxide, and I want to go through my notes real quick. Pop quiz. What is the most plentiful element or molecule in the atmosphere of planet Earth? Answer: nitrogen. More than 78% of our atmosphere is nitrogen. What element is second in line? That would be the one a lot of folks would wrongly guess as the first, to wit, oxygen at over 20%. Keep in mind, as somebody pointed out, if you have too much oxygen in the atmosphere, what actually happens is spontaneous combustion, not a great thing. I'm using information from Wikipedia, of all places, but for a change, it's actually reasonably accurate based on multiple presentations I've heard in the recent past. I'm not going to bother to show you the graphic. You can find it there if you want to see it. That is at Wikipedia. But now let's do some simple math. We know that nitrogen is 78%. We know that oxygen is 20%. So what is 78% plus 20%? Unless you're really bad at addition, I'm sure you came to 98%. Let me point something out. My numbers are actually a little bit short of what's really there, but you couldn't round up an entire percent. Keep in mind the numbers I've cited for both elements, as I say, are actually slightly low. That's what I want you to take away from what I just said. What that means is nothing else in the Earth's atmosphere can be greater than 2% in its parts per percent, right? Percent. How much carbon dioxide is there? I'm not sure how accurate the number is on that Wikipedia page, but per that same graphic, the amount is roughly 0.04%. For those of you that don't know what that means, that's 0.01%. That's what that is. Imagine you were counting 10,000 beads. 10,000, that's a pretty good bucket. In the bucket of beads, 0.04% are red beads. They're red, okay? Just 4. Being generous and rounding up, it would be 5 instead. That's how many red beads there would be in your bucket. Just 4, or if you round it up, 5. And it's not really reasonable to round up, but anyway, that's fine too. That's why the amount of carbon dioxide listed in the atmosphere is considered part of the trace amounts group. The amount is so small as to be nowhere near even 1%. I want to bring an idea to memory here. Pretty much all ground vegetation, and by the way, a lot of stuff in the ocean, I guess, too, quote, breathes carbon dioxide. To be fair, the amount a tree or other plant takes in might be quite small. That considered, those that do so have substantially less than 1/20th of the amount that those of us who breathe oxygen do. Is carbon dioxide really a major concern? You tell me. All right, we're out of our notes and let's go ahead on with this. The very first thing that I want to bring forward is this. Not only is carbon dioxide literally a trace, in this case molecule, in the atmosphere of planet Earth, and by trace I mean, like I say, 4 hundredths of a percent. Now, look, you do the math, it's simple. If it's 1%, if it's 4%, we'll do 4. If it's 4%, that's 4 in every 100. If it's 0.4%, it's 4 in every 1,000. And if it's 0.04%, it's 4 in every 10,000 particles, molecules, elements, whatever the various things are in the atmosphere. That's how small the number is. It's exceptionally small. If you honestly believe that that exceptionally small, literally trace amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is a problem, I kind of think you're probably missing it just a little. One of the guys, I forget his name, Richard something, I think, from Greenpeace, who is no longer there, he was one of the founders, looked into this. And he said a couple of things about it more recently after he left Greenpeace. One was, actually, if you have that much carbon dioxide, what happens is the plants in the biosphere, the biome, whatever you want to call it, of planet Earth, happily take in that stuff. And by the way, it makes lots of them a great deal healthier, since that's what they, quote, breathe in, right? What they want out of the air. So they take in the air, and if you don't have enough carbon dioxide, those critters, those plants are going to die. That vegetation is going to die. If you have the right amount, they'll do okay. They may not quite flourish, but they'll do okay. They'll flourish. You can make that argument. If you add more, what they do is actually grow faster and take more of it as part of the process. So this idea that carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, that greenhouse gases are a horribly great thing, I'm sorry, I'm having a very hard time believing that's the case. Now, here's my challenge. I'm going to challenge you. If you can show me how I am mistaken, I'm more than willing to hear what you have to say. And I'm more than willing to become a, quote, believer if that's what comes out of it. I'm here to tell you something just based on what I've heard. I don't believe you'll be able to do that. And honestly, I don't think the average person realizes. Look, it's not even the atmosphere is almost 80% nitrogen. Basically, only 20% of it is oxygen. And then you've got things that are oxygen commutatives and other things, right? And most of the other things are so small trace-wise that they're barely worth talking about, to the point where I think the Wikipedia page mentions 6 or 7, maybe other than oxygen and nitrogen in the atmosphere. It really isn't something that they do to talk about any others. Now, to be fair, in the trace elements, trace components, if you look at them, carbon dioxide is the far greatest of those trace components of the atmosphere. But like I say, if you consider that grass and trees and whatever else, the lichens or whatever, I don't know what all, I couldn't tell you what all, but if you consider that there are a lot of things that, quote, eat or use at least carbon dioxide, they probably eat things from the ground, to be frank, but use carbon dioxide, you come to this understanding that it's really questionable that number, even if it got a fair amount higher, would substantially change much of anything. Okay? And this is why this is part of the reason that a lot of people say things like, really, saying that global warming, if there is such a thing, which I don't really buy, is man-made, you can sort of argue for it in a way, is man-made, is a ridiculous thing. If I were looking at the things we really needed to take care of, and the sooner the better, I would be looking at the trash that we're generating that does not decompose or biodegrade in a reasonable way. And by the way, I think there are people looking at this, and I think that's a good thing, and I'm not trying to say otherwise. But my point is to say that as a rule, I do not see greenhouse gases, I do not see carbon dioxide or anything like that as a real problem. Okay. This has been the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host, I'm Kurt, and today is Friday, the 4th of March of 2022. Again, the beginning of the Sabbath for those who celebrate it at sundown today. That means tomorrow will be Saturday, the 5th of March of 2022, and that will be the end of the Sabbath at sundown on Saturday. Again, for those who observe it, happy Sabbath. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for everyone who's been here on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube, on BitChute, on CloudHub, on my Facebook page. That's the Kurt's Religion and Politics page on Facebook, on kurtzreligionandpolitics.locals.com, on minds.com. Again, that would be typically the Kurt's Religion and Politics group would be where you'd see me, on Parler, on Gab, or pretty much any other place that you happen to see me. Remember that Rumble is my preferred platform. You can definitely give me a Rumble if you want to do that, and I will not complain if you do. You can also give me a plus on Rumble if you want to give me a positive feedback. You can give me a minus if you think that what I'm doing is stupid or whatever. That's fine. I get that. I'm not going to tell you that that's something that you can't do. Obviously, you can, wherever comments are available, comment on my content. By the way, if there's some other feedback that you can give me, that's fine too. If you want to do that, you can do that on whatever platform. Obviously, there's CloudHub and BitChute, and you can give me various kinds of feedback on at least one of those, right? But if you comment on something that I say and I find that it's a garbage comment, that's typically something where you're advertising or trying to do something bad to other people or whatever, I will very promptly, if I have the opportunity, to delete it. If I see that you're commenting and I see that it makes sense for me to reply to your comment and I'm able to do so, I will do everything that I can to reply. If not, I might plus or minus or like or dislike or whatever your comment. Typically, it'll be a like. Even if it's something that I do not understand why you put there, I will typically allow it to stay so that other people can see it as well. The subject for today has been carbon dioxide, and tomorrow we're going to talk on the subject of American government. That's kind of vague, and I don't remember exactly what I was saying, but I think you want to tune in just to see what it is that I have to say, because I might be presenting something that you really kind of need to think about and consider. Hope you're having a good day today as we truck ever closer to the weekend. Hope everything is going well for you in this year as a whole so far. And hopefully we will see you again on Saturday's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This podcast was created on Friday the 4th of March of 2022. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.